Good afternoon, my name is Camden and welcome back to my channel. First of all, I wanted to start off by giving you guys a big thank you for 100 subscribers and talking about my 100 subscriber giveaway. I wanted to do something a little bit special to celebrate hitting 100 subscribers, so I've put together a giveaway for you guys. Basically how it's going to work is I've put a Google form in the description box below. I'm going to be giving away a book of your choice and then a book that I'm going to try and recommend to you based off of some questions that you'll have to answer about your favorite genres, favorite tropes, things like that, and I will try and pick a book that I think you will enjoy based off that information. So 2 books, one that you pick yourself and have been wanting to read for a while, and one that I will pick on your behalf based on what I think you will enjoy. Hopefully that makes sense. Like I said, I'll link the Google form in the description box below. I'll be choosing the winner randomly, so please go enter. I will be selecting a winner on January 27th and announcing it on my channel. All of that being said, let's just hop right into today's video. I think this one is going to be super duper fun. Basically, I'm going to be talking about a lot of book cover, book title, and book plot trends that I think we're going to see popping up a lot in 2023. I do have some reasoning behind a lot of these, but some of them are just like selected completely at random. So I'll be sure to explain my thought process as we go through all these, and I hope you enjoy. Kicking things off, I'm going to start off by talking about book cover trends that I think we'll see in 2023. And the first one that I want to discuss is 2023's Animal. I talked about this last year in my tier ranking book cover trends video, but in 2020 and 2021, we had a trend of snakes being on the cover of books. And in 2022, rabbits became the new snake. So now I'm trying to predict what the new rabbit is going to be. I do have a couple of guesses. My first guess is foxes. My second guess for like an animal that's maybe lesser known or like thinking a little more out of the box is a weasel. So yeah, I'm not too sure what the animal is going to be, but what I will say is that I totally believe that the third book in like the 9th House trilogy is going to be the reveal, because the first book had a snake on it and the second book has a rabbit on it. So I truly believe once we have the cover reveal for 9th House book number 3 that we will know our new reigning champion of animal covers. In kind of a similar vein, I think we're also going to see a lot more animal skulls on the cover of books, especially for fantasy that gears more towards like a dark fantasy side of the genre. This could be like bird skulls, deer skulls, rabbit skulls, anything along those lines. I just have a feeling that animal skulls are going to be the new thing this year. My third book cover prediction is that we're going to see a lot of architecture and in particular doors on the cover of novels this year. I don't really have a particular reason for thinking this outside of the fact that I know that a lot of publishers gear towards putting things on the cover of books that will give the reader a sense of what the book is going to be about or the tone of the book. And I feel like architecture is really great for doing that, especially because I've seen a lot more gothic style novels coming out in the last few years. I feel like buildings, turrets, windows, doors, all of these can really give a sense of what a tone of a book is going to be or what the setting is going to be. So I think we'll see a lot more of those in 2023. And finally, when it comes to book cover trends, I believe that water is going to be the new trees. Like I mentioned earlier, I filmed a video last year where I tier ranked book cover trends, and in that video I talked about how trees were like the face of literary fiction and thrillers, and I feel like since I filmed that video, water has become the new trees, just as rabbits have become the new snakes. This past year, I have seen a ton of books with water on the covers of them, and I feel like that trend is going to continue on in 2023, and I have no ideas yet what the new water will be after this one is exhausted. I guess that'll be a video for next year. Moving on to book title trends, I really only have a couple of these. The first one that I want to mention is that I've seen a ton of titles that involve like words revolving around death, whether that's like burn, bury, drown. Drown was a huge one this past year. Execute. Words like this, I feel like, have been cropping up all over the place. And even though it's been pretty popular this past year, I feel like it will continue on and become even more popular in 2023. And the other book title trend that I expect to see in 2023 has to do with one of the most popular books that was published in 2022, and that is the book I'm Glad My Mother Died by Jennette McCurdy. This book is a celebrity memoir that discusses Jennette's very difficult relationship with her abusive mother. And as fantastic as people say this book is, and as popular as it was, the main conversations I saw around this book was the title of the book and just how shocking people found it. And I feel like these kind of shock value titles are going to be a new trend in 2023. Obviously, shocking titles could be a wide variety of things. I think that we'll see a lot more swear words on the covers of books, a lot of words that people don't like say in polite company, and also a lot of like unspeakable things similar to like I'm Glad My Mom Died being the titles of books. I just can't help but think that publishers noticed how widely discussed this book was and how quickly the title like captured people's interest and got them talking, and that they won't take inspiration from that. After all, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Okay, finally, I'm going to be moving on to some more plot-related trends that I think we'll see in 2023. The first ones that I have to discuss are like very general trends across all genres, and then after that, I'll be going into more specifically genre by genre, mostly focusing on the genres that I personally read, which are thrillers, horror, fantasy, things like that. First general trend that I think we're going to see a lot more of, inspired by the show Stranger Things, is books being set in the 1980s. I really feel that Stranger Things has laid a lot of groundwork when it comes to introducing a new generation to the 1980s, 1980s music, 1980s culture, 1980s fashion, and I feel like particularly in like the YA genre, we're going to see a lot more books taking place in the 1980s. Very similarly, I think we're also going to see a lot of Regency, Victorian, Edwardian settings for books, obviously inspired by the cultural phenomenon that is Bridgerton. Again, this is one that I think could be across a lot of different genres. Could be fantasy that's kind of set in like a Regency era, could be historical books, romance books. I'm not sure, but I do think that this one is kind of across a variety of genres and not just particular to any one. But yeah, that is my expectation for 2023 and 2024. And my third more general trend is on a bit of a darker note, and that is that I think we'll see a lot more books that kind of deal with the concept of forced pregnancy. Obviously, in the United States, we've been grappling with the recent overturning of Roe v. Wade and how that affects women and how that is going to affect our healthcare system and doctors' abilities to give life-saving abortions. Obviously, we have books like The Handmaid's Tale that kind of discuss and touch on this topic quite heavily, but I do think that this court decision being so recent that we will see a lot more books that are centered around this, possibly historical fiction books, possibly literary fiction books, possibly dystopian, fantasy. I feel like any genre really could cover this and discuss themes of this and what our world might look like with decisions like this happening. Definitely much more of like a heavier topic, but I definitely think we'll see a lot more authors writing stories around this subject matter in the next couple of years. The next category of predictions that I have is trends that have already been happening quite frequently, but I do think will continue on in 2023. The first one that I want to talk about is authors writing about authors. This one has already been a trend for years. I feel like authors are always advised to write about what they know, and they know how to be an author. So I feel like we see a lot of like self-insertion in that way. but I absolutely love reading about authors in books, so I'm super excited to say that I don't think this trend is going anywhere. And although I came up with these predictions like several weeks ago, I just recently filmed my most anticipated releases for 2023 video about the first quarter of the year, and there were already like a few different titles that had authors in it, so I definitely think I'm right that this trend is going absolutely nowhere. The next trend that I think will be continuing on in 2023 is thrillers being set on college campuses, or like dark academia style thrillers. I feel like we've seen a lot of these in the past few years, and I do think that we'll continue to see this in 2023. Again, I'll put covers on screen so you know which kind of books I'm talking about, but yeah, I'm really excited. This is one of my favorite kind of tropes because I really enjoyed college and I love reading like academic style thrillers, so I'm excited to read any of the books that come out that kind of fit into this category this year. Okay, the next category is going to be for the thriller genre specifically. The first one that I have is podcasts. We've obviously seen a lot of thrillers that include like a podcast element to it, but I feel like we're going to see that even more in 2023. And also not just podcasts, but like true crime fans in general being included in these thriller novels. Whether that's a thriller taking place at a true crime convention, true crime fans trying to be like amateur detectives and taking on the investigation themselves, an aspiring podcaster trying to solve a mystery in order to like get their podcast off the ground, kind of similar to like Only Murders in the Building. So far, I feel like all of the books that I have read with a podcast element have like a well-established podcaster or podcast investigating a cold case and trying to uncover what happened. And while I do enjoy this trend, I feel like there's a lot more to be explored within like the podcast trope beyond just that. And also, as I said, I feel like true crime fans and true crime conventions and things like that may also become more like heavily involved in these type of thrillers than they are currently. My next prediction for the thriller genre is that we're going to see a lot more female serial killers. I feel like I've read a couple of books at this point that feature female serial killers, but always in those books it's done out of like revenge against men who have harmed them, or female serial killers who are stalking down men who harm women in general. And I feel like in 2023 or 2024, we're going to see a lot more female serial killers who do it just for the fun or just for the thrill or just because they are sadistic and not necessarily kind of almost from like a moral standpoint that they're killing. I'm starting to feel like the line between what I genuinely think is going to happen and just what I want to happen is like becoming smaller and smaller at this point. My next prediction for the thriller genre is that we're going to see a lot more authors discuss like police corruption and cover-ups in their thriller novels, maybe as a plot device to explain why cases haven't been solved, or maybe because the police are the killers in certain thriller novels. And my final prediction for the thriller genre is that I feel like we're going to see kind of the effects of the pandemic crop up in thrillers a lot more this year. Obviously, it can take a while for a book to go from being an idea in the author's head to a fully published book. So I feel like a lot of the books that we'll see coming out this year are going to be books that were the author's brainchild during the pandemic. I feel like in general, across the board, we're going to see a lot more mention of viruses, pandemics, death and grief, and themes of quarantine and isolation across all genres, but in the thriller genre in particular. Moving on to fantasy, and also heavily inspired by the pandemic and other world events that we've been seeing recently, I feel like fantasy is going to go in the complete opposite direction, and that we're going to see a huge spike in cozy fantasy this year. Apart from the fact that Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree was such a TikTok sensation this year, I really feel like authors in general are going to kind of go the low stakes route. While the thriller horror genre tends to always play on our biggest fears, I feel like fantasy has always been a genre that focuses around escapism. Obviously, I think we'll still see a lot of dark fantasies and epic fantasies, but I have a feeling that based on the absolute shitstorm that is happening in our world right now, and the fact that there are wars everywhere, a recession that's about to happen in the United States, the pandemic, the escapism that we really need in the world right now is going somewhere very sweet, very cozy, and where not a lot happens. And I feel like we're gonna see authors stepping up to the plate to provide us that this year. On a somewhat related note, my second prediction for the fantasy genre is that we're going to see a lot more animal companions being discussed. I do have a reason behind this one, which is that I feel like a lot of people were like quarantining with their pets during the pandemic, and that they may view like themselves and their pets as like a dynamic duo that they want to write about in their stories. This one might be a little bit of a reach, but I do feel like we'll see more animal companions in our fantasy novels this year. And the final prediction that I have for books published in 2023 is where the whole like Greek mythology retellings is going to go in the future. There are a lot more Greek mythology retellings slated to come out in 2023, so I don't feel like this is going to be going away too soon, but I'm trying to predict where I think the next like direction that this whole trend could go is, and I'm thinking that another mythology may be the answer, particularly Norse mythology, but I also think that we'll see a lot more like epics, poems, ballads, things like that. Like I said, I think Greek mythology is here to stay for a while longer, but maybe towards the end of 2023 or into 2024, we'll start to see a shift in where this kind of trend goes. I'm thinking maybe like Beowulf, Arthurian legends, the Tale of Gilgamesh, things like that is maybe where these authors will go to start telling them from the perspective of feminine characters. Either way, that is it for this video. Those are all of my predictions. I'd love to hear what you think about this, and if you have any predictions of your own as to where these kind of trends are going to go, book cover trends, book title trends, plot trends, let me know down in the comments what you think of this. Anyway, that is going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed filming it. Please leave me a comment down below. Let me know what your predictions are for 2023. Can be book titles, book covers, or plots. I'd love to hear your thoughts and what trends you think will be cropping up this year. If you have a moment to spare, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and go fill out the form in the description box. I will see you all next Friday with a new video. Goodbye.